Welcome to Oncology Revolution, where science meets care to transform the cancer journey. We explore evidence-based strategies to enhance quality of life, promote longevity, and empower patients and professionals to thrive beyond cancer.
Hi, everyone. As you know, my name is Diana Ferreira. I'm a lifestyle medicine certified physician, and I'm a lecturer at the European School of Lifestyle Oncology. And today on the podcast, we have Marta Moreira. Marta is a certified functional medicine health coach, passionate about helping individuals reclaim their health and reconnect with themselves by addressing the root causes of imbalances and deepening their connection with their bodies, emotions, and personal power. A firm believer in the mind-body connection and preventive medicine, she integrates nervous system regulation, mindset optimization, and sustainable lifestyle changes to equip individuals with the tools to restore balance, build resilience, and cultivate long-term health and well-being. Welcome, Marta. It's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Diana, and thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you. Marta, I would love to start this conversation by talking about a little bit about coaching, because I know you're a health coach. And so I would love you to speak a little bit about the role of the coach and why do we need coaches, and um, what's the skills you bring to the table that we can't find in other health professionals.
Yeah, that's a great question. So people often know what they need to do, but they don't do what they know, right? Sometimes they don't know what they need to do in some cases. So the coach can also help with that. But the role of a coach is, I like to say it, I'm a behavior change specialist. So I help people changing behaviors. And I guess what most people struggle is to change behaviors or change their habits, right? And that's why the role of the coach is so important. And talking specifically within the context of, let's say that the coach integrates a team, right, with the doctors. So the doctors will prescribe a solution, right? But then sometimes the patients, they will go home and they don't know what to do with that, where to start, how to implement it, and they feel overwhelmed. And that's where the coach comes to help them kind of follow through with a plan. And we do that using different things. So some of the things that I study were positive psychology. So these are based on my academy, and then I kind of brought other resources to the table. But positive psychology, motivational interviewing, and that means that we use like coaching techniques to bring out of people the best, right? And to develop self-inquiry, and for people to connect with their why, because that's often something that is also missing, is people are not really connected with the deep reasons why they want to change, um right. And then of course the coach acts as someone that is there. I always give, oh, sorry, I always give this example to my clients, which is, you are on the driver's seat and I'm on the passenger seat. So you are driving, you are choosing the direction, and I'm on your side to support you. So the coach can educate, can guide, and can support and provide accountability, because often we also fail to follow through with the changes that we want for our life, because we don't have the accountability, we don't have the structure. So the coach does all that work, kind of, and especially nowadays, there is so much information available that it can be really confusing for people to know what to do. And and that the role of the coach is really this of like showing you have already within you what you need,
Yeah.
but I'm just supporting you all the way and giving you the right resources and the right tools so you can achieve whatever you want.
Yeah, and that's that you touched on so many interesting points, to be honest. And, I know as a doctor, we were trying to, well, sometimes we're not even trying to do that, but at least to advise in terms of good nutrition, good sleep, good, do your physical exercise. But we're actually not used to, one, writing adequate prescriptions for lifestyle interventions, but certainly we don't know how to implement behavior change like you're saying. So this is a very interesting skill of, working with people to find out their why and actually implement um, what's missing, but, with a solid base within them. So super, super interesting, Marta. And I know, most of us who come to these sort of more holistic areas of intervention have some sort of a personal story that sort of lead us there. And I was wondering if you could share your own story of why did you decide to, because you're a health coach, but also you're a functional health coach, and you have such an holistic perspective on how to approach a person. And I would love to know how you got there, and of course, this might still be developing for you, but yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Um, I would love that. Let me just add to what we were talking before, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
So this is not happening in our healthcare systems yet, which I believe one day will be. I mean, it is happening a bit in the US where there are collaborative teams already. So you have the doctors, usually I'm talking about functional medicine specifically, right? But there is a functional medicine doctor, and then you have a whole team, a nutritionist, a health coach, the nurse, whatever it is. But then the doctor makes the prescription, and then it goes to the coach to work on the prescription with the client. And one of the reasons for this is also because you were saying that you were also a doctor and you don't always have the time to this, like you try to give advice, but the big difference is the doctors, they don't have the time to spend with the patients trying to instill behavior change. Whereas the coach, they have either if it's 30 minutes or 45 or 1 hour to sit there and lead the client to I like to call it an inward journey, because you will have to do an inward journey to be able to change and find out and give that time and that space. And I remember when I finished my certification, some of us, we were a bit concerned, like, well, but we're not like diagnosing or saying anything to patients. Will they see value? And our facilitator, she said, you have no idea of the power of listening and presence, because nowadays most people, they don't have we have, like, we might be with a lot of people, but we don't really have presence and someone listening to us and to our struggles, and just giving that space for you to be. And
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, and be mirrored. Of course, then there are like coaching techniques and the questions that you ask and all of that. That obviously it's gonna bring up a lot. But yeah, I wanted to just add that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. I'm glad you did. All right. Uh, so going back to your personal story, I would love to hear more about you.
Well, I'm gonna try to make it short. I was getting constant. So thank God I can have a big wake up call, because as you were saying, everyone usually has their own personal journey when they end up looking for more integrative or holistic approaches. For me, it was urinary infections that I was getting like constantly, and I would go take the doctor will just give me an antibiotic, and I will go home, take it, and then after 1 week or two, I would be feeling again bad, and they will I will go back to the doctor and they will do the same thing. I was like, there has to be more than this. This cannot be the solution. And that's when I found, like, I started looking for more holistic approaches, and I found like looking at the root cause, not at just the symptoms. Because until there, I was pretty much conditioned to just like know about symptoms and didn't even think about like root cause and the body mind connection and all of these. But as I started like researching and looking for other solutions, I was in awe because all of that made so much sense for me, like the whole body mind and soul connection, that the looking at the root cause instead of addressing the symptoms. So I started with like more going to naturopaths and, you know, more like Eastern approaches. But then there was this part of me, my prefrontal cortex, where I've been really well trained in habiting there, and I needed more. I was very like scientific in a way. I need facts and I need this and that. So I was like, I need more. I need something that will give more credibility or whatever. And I found functional medicine. And when I found functional medicine, it was like, okay, everything made sense for me because it was kind of like the Eastern with the Western together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that,
Something. Yeah.
yeah, and from there, obviously, I started my own journey with changing my lifestyle and the way I was living, which made a big difference back then. Was like the sleep was a big issue for me that I didn't realize, right? Because the sleep is that thing that we keep pushing and pushing, and it doesn't matter if I sleep for hours. Next day, I will take a nap in the afternoon and it's fine. And then I didn't realize how much that dysregulation that was creating in all the other systems as well, right? Because that will affect the way that you will want to eat on the next day, right? And probably we're just more tempted to eat some foods that are not the best choices for you. That will affect your hormones. So I started then like changing. I thought I already had like the healthy eating, which was like the gym based, you know, chicken with broccoli and rice type of eating. But then I started looking for other solutions, and at the same time, um, later on, I found like my father was with cancer, and so I started like diving even deeper into that, into cancer, into more like natural healing, more holistic medicines. Then my mom got cancer, and yeah, it was just like I completely dove in into this.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting and that you had this personal experience with your parents, and I'm sure you had to navigate the current health system as well, like the traditional conventional health system. And I was wondering if you could give us your perspective in terms of um, what is missing, because you touched on so many aspects, and of course you do something so integrative and the understanding that one system will affect the other. Sleep is not only sleep, but it's the impact on all the other systems that we're looking for as well. And um and yeah, so how was it for you to study this and at the same time navigate the current health system? Tricky question, I know.
You know, you want the honest answer? It was frustrating. It was very, very frustrating, especially because it was not just navigating the system, it was navigating your own family when they are like between life and death, right? And they don't understand. They still have that mindset and they don't want to believe. So that was like a big work for me personally as well. But going back to your question, so I don't digress. It was very, very frustrating. I don't want to sound negative or anything, of course, but I think we have a sick care system, not a healthcare system, because we are just treating disease. And sorry, we are treating symptoms. We're not treating disease. And we're just stopping symptoms. We're not addressing the root causes. And then this goes really deep because it's not the doctor's fault. It's like what they are being taught at the universities. Now, I do think that there is a part of personal responsibility that each of us should have in like thinking, like, questioning things, thinking a little bit outside of the box, which again, I'm not here to judge anyone or anything, but I understand that might not happen. But yeah, our system is just a system for medicines to be prescribed, basically, or for organs to be cut. So, and don't take me wrong, we need emergency medicine and we need conventional medicine for emergency situations, which is super important. And thank God we have that. But nowadays in the world, we are facing, like, most of the diseases we are facing are chronic diseases that needs to be approached in a different way. And when it comes to oncology, what is happening, at least in the system where I could observe, and I know it's a little bit, it's similar all over the world. There are some places that are more advanced or not, but like, so it starts on the education that the doctors are receiving, because we know that food is medicine. Don't come to me and tell me that there is no research or whatever, because there is enough research if you want to look at it to know certain things, right? And we still like don't teach or barely teach in the universities about nutrition, about the impact of lifestyle. And what happens then is when you are inside of the system, and if you are on the patient side, and if you try to do something different, you're not supported. And it's worse than that. You are even like, you are judged and almost humiliated. And that's what happened with my mom. Like, I I kind of convinced her to try and support what she was doing there with some things on the side. And then when they found out, they kind of like they really treat her badly because she was just taking some supplements. I went with her and with my father to consultations with doctors, and you ask them like, okay, shall we change anything in our lifestyle, in the way that we eat? And the answer is no. The food that is being given inside of the institutes of oncology, it's like there are studies on how milk is connected with breast cancer, right? But that is being served there. I mean, so many things. There are some progress. I know they have like Reiki there, and there are other things that they might be doing, but overall, especially, I think it's even worse inside of the like oncology system compared to others, like the approach, like the, and maybe, okay, don't take me wrong, I'm not talking like in the name of all the doctors, I'm talking with the ones that I have contact. It's like, no, don't do anything, you don't need to change, just eat whatever you want that makes you happy, and we'll be fine. When we know nowadays, we know so much about cancer and how much the foods that you eat and the environment that your body is giving to the cells to be sustained impacts the development or not, right, of this disease. So the system needs education, which will take a long time. Fortunately, there are professionals like you and like others that already understood that it can be just this, and we need to use the other medicine that we have, right? The lifestyle, which is medicine. So it will have to be at a deeper level, which I feel it's coming, this revolution. I don't know how many years it will take. Um, it's gonna take a long time, but it will come.
Yeah. And I think it's probably going to be patient driven because, people are searching for these approaches more and more. Um, and I find it interesting that the people who end up, like I said, before when I was asking the question. The people who end up working in these fields are people who had some personal struggles and had some difficulties with the current system. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a problem with the system more than the health professionals because they need to navigate the system in some way. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. And I would love to add that in 2024 we had a seminal paper coming out. The first one was the hallmarks of cancer, who came out in 2000. It was very focused on the tumor and the cell. And now the updated version in 2024 is the first one mentioning lifestyle factors as key factors for influencing tumor development and yeah, tumor development and progression. So I think it's a huge step. We were very excited when we saw that paper coming out, and it goes, yeah, it's basically supporting exactly what you were saying, that we have currently lots of evidence in terms of nutrition and in terms of physical exercise, lifestyle. So thank you so much for bringing that. And just touching on the supplements as well, because it's such an interesting question that people come to us with so many. Either they want to do everything or they don't want to do anything because they're too scared to do it. And of course, we're super careful with the supplements you do, for example, during chemotherapy, to ensure that there's no interactions with the drugs you're taking. But of course, you need to study these fields to really understand what's safe, what's not. But saying nothing works and don't do anything, it's actually not true in light of the evidence we have so far. So thank you so much for saying that. And yeah, so I know you have focus on so many different areas, and I think this is such a complex and complete approach. And I was wondering if there's a key, because you talk about lifestyle, you talk about mindset, you talk about regulation of the nervous system, in terms of everything really. That do you think needs to be in place? What are some of the key pillars that need to be in place to actually make an intervention work? And I don't know if this differs from person to person, it probably does, but is there any key aspects of your intervention that you think, okay, this needs to be in place, otherwise behavior change won't stick?
Yeah. So I've been delving a lot into the nervous system, and if your nervous system is in a state of fight or flight, so I don't know, we'll have different people listening to us. So it's like, imagine you are like your ancestors and you were running from a lion, and you were running for your life, and your body activates all these processes within the body that will allow you to survive. Okay, so that's the fight or flight. So if your nervous system is on a fight or flight, it's really difficult for some other pieces to happen, especially in behavior change, because our nervous system likes familiarity, and it doesn't like uncertainty, right? So, and if we are in a fight or flight, we are like looking, how do I survive? So change becomes already a lot more difficult. And that's why for some people, they can't do it over time, because sometimes they start with all that motivation, and they are motivated, they do things and they change a little bit, but then what is the struggle? It's consistency, right? With everyone, like, not everyone, some people still struggle also to find the motivation to make changes, but to make changes is not the biggest like issue. Difficult is the consistency, and the consistency, it happens when you work obviously on your mindset, on the subconscious mind, what is there, and when you work along also with the nervous system, and you have your nervous system not in a state of fight or flight constantly, because you probably will know this nowadays, like one of the biggest issues is chronic stress, right? So we are constantly with the foot on the gas pedal, on the chronic on the fight or flight, and I think, going back to your question now, because I kind of already went in different directions.
Fine, yeah.
Here. Um, I used to think that nutrition was everything. Okay. I really used to think that nutrition was everything. And I still believe that like food is medicine. And when I see this, is just because a nice, trendy sentence that you use. It's because it's really. And I really believe we are made from nature, and Mother Nature knows what it does, and it does the right foods for us. And the foods that are making us sick, they are not made by Mother Nature. So I really believe that addressing the food piece is important, because we want to take down inflammation, we want to optimize detoxification, all those things. But you might be eating the best foods in the world, right? But if your body is in a constant state of fight or flight, you won't be able to absorb that food or to digest it.
Yeah.
So I don't like to say it has to be this one thing, but depending on case to case, right? Because this is also very broad. So it will depend case to case, but I think it should be going along, like starting regulating the nervous system to create safety, which most people don't know what that is. And then alongside making small changes, because I don't think we want to go there, but if we talk about even like, nowadays, a big majority of the population are in this third state of the nervous system, which is the freeze response. So there is a lot of people on the chronic freeze, and the freeze response is the trauma response. And I was going to talk about that for some reason that I let me think about what I was going to say. I was saying that oh yeah. So when you are in the freeze response, you are overwhelmed, and you might be shut down and numb and dissociated, whatever it is. You can't even make changes, even if those are changes that you want to make and you know that they are good for you and you feel motivated. If your body is on that has that response activated, you won't be able to do it. Unless then you go down to a fight or flight where your fear is so big that you might be able to do something, which doesn't happen with everyone. So I think regulating the nervous system, understanding the nervous system language alongside with the lifestyle changes, the small things, it doesn't have to be big things. I think nowadays, because there is so much information, and it's just you're being bombarded with so many different things all the time, and now with the biohacking and longevity, and like, don't take me wrong, I love all those things and I read about all those things, but it's easy to forget the basics, like the basic things that you can do. Because see, what is happening, our state of health is because now we are like rats inside of four walls all the time. We're disconnected from our body, from nature. And then we are all the time like sitting, we are eating the wrong foods, we are having stress like nowadays. I mean, I know like what are the issues, but I think yeah, my answer would be starting with the nervous system, and depending on the cases, right, addressing, because if there are like nutritional deficiencies, if like there is a gut problem, obviously you have to be working as well on the nutrition piece and on the lifestyle piece. And we know like the brain inflammation and gut inflammation, they are connected. And if the nervous system is regulated, most probably you will have brain inflammation. But yeah, I would say so. I don't know if I did answer to your question.
You did, and it's really interesting as well because, when we talk about these approaches like integrative medicine, functional medicine, uh, people come to us, or at least is my experience in Portugal, but they come to us the majority of cases because they want to improve their nutrition. And when you talk about, lifestyle, when you talk about lifestyle, people talk or think about nutrition and physical exercise. And, the stress management and that piece of the regulating your nervous system is usually uh, a great addition, but not seen as a crucial part of health. So it's really interesting that you bring that to the table, that actually the nervous system regulation is key, even for you to absorb your food, the nutrition, nutrients in your food. So it's so interesting that you bring that to the table. And can I ask you, in terms of strategies to regulate your nervous system, you were talking about some simple strategies as well. Uh, could I ask you to expand on that? What are some things that we can do every day to sort of start regulating our nervous system?
Okay. Some people might not like these answers, but I would invite you, if you're not doing anything yet, to just sit down with yourself for 5 minutes. And it can be just that, you know, because we're always on the loop of the automatic pilot without making time to really rest and sit down with our body. And our nervous system is throughout our body, right? The nerves, they go all the way along, and sitting and getting in tune with the body sensations is something really important. Now, of course, I can tell you like things that work really well. I really like breathing. Um, Grounding and being in nature is something that really regulates the nervous system. In Japan, they prescribe the forest bathing, right? For a reason. I do so. Mindfulness, it's something that helps. Now, the work that I do more specifically, I work with somatic exercises, so it's body-based exercises that can be the breath, right? And we have different techniques, like you can do a VU or a hum, where you are vibrating your vagus nerve and you are stimulating the vagus nerve. So it can be things like that. But if you are just breathing as well, and if you were breathing, inhaling, and then exhaling for the longer count, right? Double count. So let's say you inhale in 4 counts and you exhale in 8, you are already sending a message to your nervous system that, well, if I'm breathing for such a long count, there is no lion behind me or trying to get me, so I should be fine. And we activate the parasympathetic response. Um, Breathing is really a great tool to help that. But then we do something called, like, I do something called orienting. So we want to use our sensory system to send a message to our nervous system that we are safe, right? And we can do that for different things: touch, the eyesight or visual, the taste. That's another thing. But I think going to these things without help, and that's why I didn't talk about them straight away when you asked me that question, is those are things I think it's important to get support to work with. And with this, I'm not saying you cannot do it alone at all, but I think thinking about just like a normal person that is trying to start some changes, I would say, um thinking even about my own experience, right? Because I evolved through the years. I didn't start or got to where I am right now from the beginning, but just either if meditating works for you. But the thing with meditation is it doesn't work with your breath. So I would prefer a pranayama or breathing techniques, because that really works with your breath, and the breath sends a message to the nervous system. Then things like grounding are really like simple things that are really great. Just go out, put your feet on the grass or on the earth, and just be there for a bit. It can be just a moment of presence, like, watching the sunset and being really present with looking at the sun. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
could keep
Does
going, but
Yeah. No, it's beautiful, and you talked about specific techniques, but just coming outside, grounding, these are breathing. These are such simple things that we can do even 5 minutes a day, and to start with, and that can really make a difference in our nervous system, the way we absorb foods, all of these that you just mentioned. So thank you for that. I think it's brilliant. And I
yeah.
was wondering,
Sorry, Diana, let
go
me
ahead.
just say something. Since you were talking about observing foods, a simple thing that like I do before I eat, I like to do some support. So I do support on my stomach and on my heart, and I appreciate the food. And I take a deep breath or two or three, depends how much time I have just before eating. So I'm sending the message to my nervous system that it's okay, I'm safe, and I can eat and digest that food. And I'm also appreciating the food that I'm eating, right? Of course, if you tell me, Marta, but do you do that every day for all your meals? No, it doesn't happen every day. But if you start putting, it doesn't have to be 10 minutes. It's small steps, small things. And that's where the coaching also, going back to the first question, gets in, which is breaking down like big things into small things and small steps that you can take that will move you towards where you want to go, you know?
Yeah, and you wouldn't probably see big changes in one day, but after a year, you would see like a massive change in yourself, which is quite interesting. So I want to bring the issue of trauma, which I know it's something that really interests you as well. You were talking about, these techniques of regulating your nervous system, and I was hearing as well some background on trauma. Because the bottom up approaches and the importance of working with your body as well, to sort of reach the nervous system. And I was wondering if, in your practice, um, do trauma is such a when people think of trauma, they think about big T trauma, like, being hit by a bus or having something really tragic happening to you. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Not necessarily a definition of trauma, but um, where can we find trauma, like in simple cases of trauma that we actually don't think about every day? Um, but my impression is that it's much more prevalent than we think. I don't know if that's what you see in clinical practice as well.
Wow. That's a great question. So, oof. Let me think how I don't go too deep on that, because
Yeah.
Lyme
Oh, good.
microglia was coming already to my mind, and I think that might be too much. But let me think in other words. So anything, I think a good word. So this doctor with who I study and I follow, she uses the word overwhelm, and I think it makes it a lot easier to understand compared with trauma, yeah, because everyone thinks about trauma like a big thing. But trauma can be too fast and too much, or too little for too long, if this makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and some of us, we are there, it's just a little, but it has been there, like going on top of things and on things for how long? For too long sometimes. And that creates the trauma response as well. Now,
Can you give an example, Marta, of that? Too little, too long?
yeah, so for example, let's say that you have emotional dysregulation, right? That
Yeah.
might come for different reasons. And you're constantly in environments that make you feel stressed and you can't regulate, or you don't feel safe, or you are not able to set boundaries.
Right.
So all in those things, right? Or you can't say your truth, or you can speak for yourself. Um, it can be that. It can be sometimes the way that you're treating your body, right? Overall. So for the food, because you're eating the wrong foods, not sleeping, not moving. not doing anything to be present with your body, with yourself. So that accumulates over time, and depending like then on what is the state of your body, it can trigger the trauma response as well.
Right.
Or even with work nowadays, it's so easy to get overwhelmed, right? So many of us like, and you accumulate that, and actually I will tell you a fun story if you allow me.
Yeah.
Yes, a personal thing. So I was doing this job that I liked, but I knew was not my passion. But I kept pushing and pushing through and like trying to convince myself and whatever. One day I stopped, and then this voice just came like, I need to leave it. And all of that for me was very stressful, and it created a lot of stress in my body, but I didn't realize. And the fact of like having to 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 talk with the company to say that I was leaving, and then they are asking to stay, and then me not being able to really say what I wanted, and all of that created so much stress that I didn't realize, and it was for a long time that then my body completely shut me down. I got sick, and this also can bring us to mind body connection theme. But I got sick. I went to the hospital, started like having fever, and I went there. The doctors didn't know what I had. I got hospitalized for 5 days, where I almost just slept. They couldn't find any infection in any of my systems or the organs, whatever the way that is tested. They couldn't find any infection markers or anything, so they didn't know what I had. But I was in that state, like the fever wouldn't come down, and I was like off. And I know that was my body, was my nervous system shutting me down from all the stress that I accumulated. That was a complete shutdown for me, to the point that put me in a hospital bed.
Right. Yeah.
So I think this cause I kind of describe, because some of us like we in jobs that we don't like, or you know um we like, but we have a lot of stress and we accumulate that over time. I mean, financial issues can be something that creates overwhelm. Like there are so many triggers and things in our life that are not like a big trauma, but can be too little for too long, and
Yeah.
just switch on the response, because the way that I see it, it's just a response of our nervous system.
Right.
And so going back to
Yeah, you were saying, so I asked you to sort of talk about the small T trauma, how frequent this is, which is probably the way you describe it, quite frequent in your practice, because it's just modern lifestyle that lead us to this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Our modern lifestyle um definitely puts us in because I think I wanted to talk about chronic stress. Even the chronic stress response then makes you more prone to activate the freeze response. Because your original question was, so I was telling that trauma is like overwhelm, right?
Right.
And
Yeah, that's right. And how you see that in clinical practice to be a factor affecting all the other areas as well.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, it's interesting, a few things that you said as well, and it sort of brings me to the need for sleep as well, because sleep, or one of there's like two hormones working in tandem. When we're talking about sleep, we have the melatonin that increases at night, but also we need to sort of lower our cortisol levels to be able to transition for sleep. And I would love you to uh, talk a little bit, so linking these aspects of nervous system regulation and trauma with with sleep. So there's lots of sleep issues nowadays as well. Sometimes there's no sleep issues, but people think they can only sleep like 5 hours a night. Um, can you talk about, the importance of sleep, but also some strategies to sort of have good sleep hygiene, let's say?
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about that deeply because I felt it on my own skin, right? It was it was what put me to a really like bad state of having no energy, no availability to be with other people, interfering with all the other things like I told you, nutrition and so on. And I think most of us humans, we think, oh, sleep. I if I don't sleep that much, it's not important, but it's actually so important because it's when we give our body the chance to recover and to do all the processes that the body needs to do in order to help us thrive, right? And at the nervous system level, the same, right? Because it's when the cleanup of the nervous system happens. It's during the night. So going to how, like, if we are in a, obviously one of the responses when you are in a fight or flight, so on a stress state, what we call stress, is the cortisol levels raise, right? And that, of course, if we have high levels of cortisol, which is an hormone that gives us energy, it will affect our sleep. And you see people with like waking up at 3 a.m. or in the middle of the night, which often stems from either high levels of cortisol that can be through because of nervous system dysregulation, but it can be also because of blood sugar imbalances, right? Um, you also see usually people with like chronic stress or trauma response. That is a mental piece that is not well, right? So that also makes it harder to be able to rest because the mind sometimes is hyperactive. And when we are in a fight or flight state, what are the thoughts that we have? Like, if you notice, when your thoughts won't be nice thoughts, and on a freeze response, it will be the same. Because when we are on the ventral vagal, the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, which is where we feel grounded, connected, calm, present, and we don't have those type of thoughts. So obviously, the nervous system does affect the sleep a lot. Now, some strategies. Um, I know this will be a big one for most of people. Like, I don't sleep with my phone in the room. The phone is turned off before bedtime, and it doesn't go to the room. In the room should be cold. Like, I know this will be hard to some people as well, but like, I would say even the 80 degrees will be nice if they can do it. Another thing really, really important is not eating before bed, trying to have at least 3 hours from your last meal to the bedtime. And for those of you that have like trackers, like I have my Aura Ring, right? And I can check my HRV and even my resting heart rate. And if I eat close to bedtime, like the results are completely different. So it does affect my REM sleep, my deep sleep, everything, right? Then it's very important. And these will be, now I'm talking just for those with trackers, like getting at least 20 to 25% of like deep sleep and REM sleep to make sure that we get a good sleep. Um, Lights, I don't know, in Portugal, like here in Dubai, I'm in Dubai at the moment, and people are crazy with like such a strong light in their houses. Like all our lights at night are like very dim, like really, really low. Of course, if you want to take the extra step, you can use the blue blockers glasses to after like the evening time. It would be really nice if you can watch the sunset, but let's be realistic, not everyone can do that. So um I would say that just reducing the light exposure, either if it's through having like blockers on your phone, or just changing the lights in your house. That would be great. Another thing that is really important, it's in the morning, making sure that your eye, the retina, gets direct sunlight and being on the sun at least 5 to 10 minutes, because that affects your sleep as well. Mm, And and then we want, I think, another thing, that this is not like directly sleep related but interferes, is because I know a lot of people wake up and they take coffee.
Right.
So if you can at least wait 1 hour, because when you're taking the coffee, you are disrupting the cortisol cycles, and then though that disruption is what can affect the sleep as well later on, right? So just postponing that intake of coffee at least an hour, and making sure that you get that sunlight. Other things, it's really nice that you have a nice and calm like routine before bed. I like, personally, I like to put my diffuser like with lavender oil, and sometimes I lit a candle. I don't always have music because of no phone in the room, but like I like to have that moment to unwind. Of course, this doesn't happen every single day, but it is a priority for me. So I
Yes.
always finish my night also like just thinking about what I'm grateful for. And I like to reflect on lessons. That's something that I kind of have as part of my night routine, and I think it's important. Also works for some people, sleeping with weighted things, because that calms the body. I use eye mask to cover my eyes, but because we don't have here, we just have blackouts. But regardless of that, I think it's good, because even using the tampons and the eye glasses, it will make your body feel be in a more, you won't have any sensory input, which is something that really activates the nervous system. Yeah.
I think that's so many different strategies, and yeah, that's brilliant. And I would love to touch on physical activity with you as well, because you have a background in fitness. So, and I'm sure you work with patients on this aspect as well. And when people think, and especially if you've never done any exercise before, when people think about physical activity, they um yeah, they don't feel very the appeal, let's say. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit on that, and how to get people to move, and especially when people never did any type of physical activity before. How, in your practice, do you sort of start people on exercise or movement? Yeah, we'd love to hear that.
Okay, that's a big question. I have to tell you that as I evolve as a person, as a professional, I'm still learning new things. So, as
Right.
you know, like learning about the trauma response and the freeze makes me now have a different view to moving. Whereas before, I would think about like, no, they are not just being disciplined or whatever, but sometimes there's actually no energy, because the trauma response creates trauma is a energy problem. So it creates a problem at a mitochondrial level. And and sometimes for people that are in a freeze response, which is a lot nowadays, it's really hard for them to find the energy to move, because the energy that the body has, that is not much, sometimes uses it for other things that are more important. And what happens sometimes is people on a freeze response, they get a little bit of energy, and then they go all excited spending it in physical exercise, so not just movement, in exerting, because they got that energy, and then that creates more damage, at least at the beginning, because you want to have other foundations in place. Now,
Yeah.
on a normal perspective, I think most people, they think, oh, I have to go to the gym and I have to work really hard. I've overcame the belief myself before. For me, if I didn't sweat and if I didn't feel really tired, it wasn't exercise. Okay, so first, that is a little bit of belief work that I think it's important to be done, because most people really undermine the value of just movement. Okay, and movement has a big impact, and we can add movement in so many different ways to our days. It can be because we, instead of taking the lift, we take the stairs, right? We can park the car a little bit further and walk more, or we can just go for walks. Nowadays we know like walks are so important. They help so much our lymphatic system. They also help regulate the nervous system. So it's something that is so powerful, and we think, oh, it's just a walk. It's not. If you are starting, aim to start, like, if you can put in 7 to 10,000 steps a day and you can be consistent with that, it has a huge power and it can make a big difference.
Right.
Now, if we want to then move to optimize then our body, right? Because we need muscle mass, which is super important for longevity and for so many other things. We want to add like weight training, and we want to add some as well, some more, maybe more intense cardiovascular training. But to start, I think it's really important to be realistic. One thing that I always find with my clients is they want to start with like everything, and then they end up not doing anything sometimes. Okay, so I always say, okay, do you think that is realistic? What about if we set a smaller goal, and then if you can do that extra time, you will celebrate it. Like, yes, food, I did it. But then what you are committing to is just this, let's say, one time. Because what happens is people overcommit, and then when they don't do it, they beat themselves up and they get into a cycle that because I didn't do it and I failed, and then they will sabotage and they won't do it at all. So it's kind of a cycle. So it's very important that you establish a goal that, like, because you will see this, Diana, for sure. It's like, I don't do anything, but now I'm gonna walk, or I'm gonna go to the gym.
You gotta change
5
my
times
life.
a week, five
Yeah.
times, and you go from 0 to 5. It's impossible. Maybe you do it 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Some people will be able to do it more, but over time, for some, it's not sustainable. And again, you build it up, right? You have to build it up. And I think it's very important that you find something that you really like and it's fun and you enjoy, because sometimes, again, we have these preconceived ideas of what we should be doing, and sometimes we don't like it, and it's important for us to know. But I also like to say it's also important to see if it's because you really don't like it or if it's because it's uncomfortable.
Right.
Because sometimes, like, I don't like running, but I've been challenging myself to run, and now I run like 8 kilometers very easily, and I didn't like weight training when I started doing it, but I didn't like it. But as I practiced it and I give it the consistency and the repetition, I started enjoying it.
Right.
So I think that's really important. Another thing is connection to the body. I see in the gym, like, people are doing the exercises there, their structure, like their posture, their alignment is like really poor, and they're doing the exercises just for the sake of doing it. So if you're starting, make sure that, I mean, YouTube nowadays is like a source of information, right? You can find support there. You can find support from a professionally, ideally, right? And make sure that you are doing the right posture, and you're connected with your body when you're doing the exercises. um but I would say start with little things,
Right.
maybe let's say if you want to go to the gym, okay, go to the gym, but even inside of the gym, find out what works for you. If it's just weightlifting, or if it's a high intensity class, or if it's another thing, and start with something that motivates you first and you like, and then you can explore to something that you know that maybe it's not because you like, but it's because you need, and you created that discipline. I think the gym and exercise is just so much more than exercise, actually, and all the benefits that brings to the body and this and that. Because I've been finding that a lot in my runs, because I see how my mind wants to give up so quickly. And then I'm here on that like self-talk of like kind of negotiating with my mind. And like, why am I negotiating with my mind? And the gym shows, for me, it's like when I start my days, because I like to work out in the morning or to move in the morning. When I start my days like that, it's like, wow, I did something difficult already. I'm ready to tackle other things that might be difficult and will come up on my day. The mindset is different. It changes. So it's not just about obviously all the benefits because you move your body and this and that and physiologically, but even on the mind perspective, it's so powerful.
Yeah, the psychological benefits, which actually are connected with the physical benefits as well, which is sort of very interesting. I just want to go back to something you said in terms of the trauma and people who are in the freeze state being completely exhausted. And of course, exercise, intense exercise will come, raise the cortisol levels, make you more exhausted. Do you start with simple strategies as well, like the walking? Do you change anything in those cases? I have a sense.
Yeah, it really depends. Like for some people, walking might be too much,
Right.
but usually it really depends. This is a really big spectrum. I think you will understand, but sometimes just bringing movement to the body, like through stretching,
Right.
or through just moving the body in the space will be okay. Because see, you will see a lot of people with chronic fatigue and those kind of conditions, right? So for those, even a walk at the beginning might be challenging. So on those, you want to work on the mitochondrial level to help support with energy and nutrients, right? Through the food as well, for some supplements. And then I think the walks is one of like the best things in those cases, because usually like it depends, like if unless you are obese and your condition might be really bad, but like it's something that people can tolerate. If you don't overdo it, you can tolerate. Yes. Yeah. But for the body, just a little bit of movement that for us in our minds we think, what, that's nothing, right? But for the body, that will be enough. And when you do this work, it's just so important. You're really connected to know the messages from your body, to understand the language of your nervous system and what's telling you, because our body is always communicating with us. The problem is we don't listen to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's brilliant. And I do have that experience of in the clinical practice of having people too exhausted to do anything. And yeah, that's a beautiful approach. Um all right. And I would love us to talk about some of the cases you've been seeing and, people who really s- uh, got better with this type of approach. Anything that you remember that is particularly interesting to bring to the table, obviously. And yeah, just tell us about your experience.
Yeah, I will tell that. I hope you don't. It's the second time I'm gonna go back to a topic, but I really wanted this app. Um, you know, you will see a lot of women, especially, and I'm going to talk specifically for women, doing high intensity workouts like 5 days a week or whatever. Um, and these women, they are already with chronic stress. Some of them are not eating enough, and that has such a big impact in their hormonal levels and cycles. Um, so I want you to say that we want to give stress to our body because it's good, right? It's not that stress is all bad. It's not. We do it in purpose to get the reaction that is good for us. But it's really important as well to understand first that as women, our body is different from the male body, and we have already a natural tendency to not support like stress so well because of our hormonal cycles. And it's important to understand that as good as that is, if it's too much, it becomes an issue. And because we're not just giving the stress from the exercise, we're giving the stress because some of us like are not eating properly, and because we're not sleeping enough, and because maybe we are going through some emotional struggles, or some people have like emotional suppression, right, which can
Right.
be a good like a big cause of nervous system dysregulation as well.
Right.
So all of that creates a huge cascade to then, create other issues. So it's really important when it comes to exercise to not forget that exercise is important, as so is recovery and rest,
Right.
and balancing both, right?
Yes.
Not just being always on the mode of pushing. Um, yeah. Now I'm answering your other question. So some cases, a client that had like bloating issues, uh, big migraines, um, gut was not working properly. Some day like um, some days she wouldn't go to the toilet. And then after just making, lifestyle changes in her nutrition, in her making sure that she has an amount of steps each day, making sure that she's taking the sun in the morning, supporting with some nutrients, because to help like with or meals that help with blood sugar regulation, all of those things. After 1 month was already a big difference. She lost weight naturally. The bloating was off. Over time, she mentioned like that she was so much more sharp, and she didn't have the brain fog, and the way that she felt and the energy to do things was completely different. And she also started like doing weight training on the side, and she was feeling strong. She said like she went on a holiday with her friends, and like the other ladies were like carrying the luggages and really struggling, and she was like lifting that and feeling so good. um yeah, another client with like liver, it came to me to lose weight, but then I always have a look at like the labs just to see any red flags. So liver values were high, and a few more things. And just through, eating whole foods, cutting off like anti-inflammatory things. And this client was quite interesting because they had this belief. So a belief that I find often is like, um eating healthy is like boring, or
Right.
it's, yeah, it's I don't remember what was the other thing that you used to think, but like it's always they just the fact of thinking of healthy foods unconsciously. And we didn't talk about the subconscious mind, which is some of the work that I do as well, but like unconsciously it was already associating that with something bad. And what we worked on was showing how to just simply nourishing his body with the right foods. And it didn't have to be in any diet, right? Because people think, oh, to lose weight I have to be in a diet. We just cut off inflammatory foods and put him on a whole foods diet. And he lost, oh my god, over the time we worked, he lost maybe 20 kilos. He was obese also, okay, but still he lost a huge amount of weight without never feeling like he was dieting and he was like feeling really angry, and so on, and of course the liver values, they came down, his energy changed, his sleep got better, his drive was different. So I think when it comes to coaching, a part of the work that I do, and we talked in the beginning, besides connecting with why, we need to understand what is really there, that is preventing us to achieve the things that we want. And that's why we do mindset work, and we go at the subconscious level and try to understand what are the beliefs that I have there. Because what happens quite often is we think that we change, but we just change the habit. And for you to change, you need to change the habit, right? But you need to repeat it consistently for a long period of time that becomes ingrained on you. But sometimes you want to change habits, but the information that is on the back of your mind, on your subconscious, is in conflict with what you want.
Right.
And like this one, right? He had this belief that eating healthy is boring or is whatever. So of course, every time he will see healthy foods, he will think already that is boring. And
Right.
we worked on that belief from where it was coming from, and we worked to kind of like change that belief by giving proof and making him aware of the belief that eating healthy actually can be fun and tasty. And it's really important. What I see is people often, they can change habits, but if the change doesn't happen at an identity level,
Yeah.
if you don't change the identity of who you think you are, it will be really difficult. And I can tell you this, like I tried so many diets, you know,
Right.
I've tried so many diets, and I would start sometimes on Monday and finish on Monday.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it will go a little bit longer. I was like, why I can't do this and that? And was when I changed some of the beliefs that I had, and when I changed my why. When my why became my health and other things that I believed back then, instead of like the way that I look, it changed everything for me. Things started happening. And what happens is people, they want to change, but they are not aware of the beliefs that are holding them back, that they have there, and they don't change their identity. So we need to change the identity. We need to make sure that the nervous system feels safe to make the changes that we want to make. And then we need to create habits that support the identity, and who we want to become, right? And that happens usually through having a routine, well settled routine, and implementing the lifestyle changes consistently and over time.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Marta. It's so important, the subconscious beliefs that we don't even realize that we have and usually come from early childhood years, etc. So thank you so much for mentioning that. We're sort of coming to the end of our time together. It has been so much fun. But do you have anything that you would like to speak on, any final messages that you would like us to hear from you? Anything that you want to finish the podcast with?
Yeah, I really, this is cliche to say this, but your health is really your biggest asset. And I really hope you don't need a wake up call to wake up, because that's what usually happens is when people have a wake up call. Now, your wake up call can be urinary infections like mine, or can be a cancer like my mom. And eventually it might take you away. So I think there is no better investment that you can do than your health. And because your health will gives you, it sets the foundation for everything else in your life, for how you show up in your relationships, how you show up in your work, for everything. And sometimes it's just simple things, but besides anything, it's you deciding to take ownership, which is a thing that I don't see much, and we are seeing that a lot more. But you need to hold yourself responsible for yourself, for your health, for your life, and you need to make sure that you take the decision of I'm in control of this. I'm not putting this in the hands of other people. I might get support and I might get guidance and whatever, but I'm in control. And I know we live in a very, very fast paced world, and we are very disconnected. But if there is one message I can give you today, start reconnecting again. Maybe for some of you, this will sound like, what is even that? Reconnecting. But just start bringing your attention to your body, to your emotions, to yourself. And it's not always a easy road, but it's definitely a worthy one. And it starts with you.
Yeah, that's right. It starts with you. So thank you so much, Marta, for being on the podcast. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you
And
for having me.
yes, and for now, I say goodbye and I'll see you next time.
See you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.